Every culture has its own terrifying urban legends, stories that make you question what's real. Some are rooted in truth, others are unexplained mysteries, but all of them will leave you haunted. Today, we're counting down the top 10 scariest urban legends from around the world. Watch until the end because the number 1 legend is so terrifying, you won't sleep tonight. Number 10. Kuchisake-Onna, Japan. In Japan, one of the most infamous legends is Kuchisake-Onna, or the Slit-Mouthed woman. She's a vengeful spirit who roams the streets at night, and anyone who crosses her path is forced to answer one fatal question. Am I beautiful? Late one night, a young man named Haruto was walking home through the empty streets of Tokyo. The city felt unnaturally quiet, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, a woman stepped out from the shadows. She wore a surgical mask and stood unnervingly still. Am I beautiful? She asked. Her voice was soft, but had an edge that made Haruto's skin crawl. Yes, of course, he stammered, hoping she would leave him alone. The woman tilted her head and slowly pulled down her mask, revealing a hideous grin carved into her cheeks, stretching from ear to ear. How about now? She hissed. Panicking, Haruto turned and ran, but no matter how fast he sprinted, her footsteps were right behind him. He ducked into a narrow alley, but when he looked back, she was gone. Relieved, he leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Then, from behind him, he heard her voice whispering, Am I beautiful now? The next morning, Haruto's body was found in the alley, his face carved into a horrific grin. Number 9. The Black Volga, Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, the Black Volga is a sinister urban legend. This luxurious black car is said to roam the streets, kidnapping anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. Some believe it's driven by the devil himself. A young boy named Jakub was walking home from school when he noticed a sleek black car creeping behind him. Its windows were tinted, and it made almost no sound. He tried to ignore it, but his heart pounded faster with each step. The car pulled up beside him, and the window rolled down. Inside, a man wearing sunglasses asked, Do you need a ride? Jakub shook his head and started running, but the car kept pace. Panicked, he darted into a nearby alley and hid behind a dumpster. He held his breath as the car's headlights scanned the alley, illuminating every corner. Suddenly, the lights switched off, and the car sped away. Jakub thought he was safe, until he realized he wasn't alone. A shadow emerged from the far end of the alley, tall and thin, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The boy screamed, but no one ever found him. Number 8. The Crying Boy Painting, United Kingdom. In the 1980s, firefighters in the UK discovered a chilling connection between house fires and a painting of a crying boy. Every home with the painting burned down, yet the painting itself always survived. A couple named Sarah and Tom bought the painting at an antique shop, charmed by its melancholic beauty. They hung it in their living room, unaware of the curse that came with it. A week later, strange things started happening. Lights flickered, their cat refused to go near the painting, and Sarah began waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was watching her. One evening, as Tom was cooking dinner, the smell of smoke filled the house. Flames erupted out of nowhere, engulfing the living room. The couple escaped with nothing but the clothes on their backs. When firefighters arrived, they found the painting lying untouched amid the ashes. Sarah and Tom buried the painting in the woods, but legend says it still waits to bring misfortune to its next owner. These stories are chilling, aren't they? Which one has creeped you out the most so far? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss more terrifying tales. The next story will make you think twice about what you see at night. Let's get into number 7. Number 7. The Midnight Bus 375, China. In Beijing, the Midnight Bus 375 is a ghostly tale of a bus that picks up passengers after midnight. Passengers who may not all be human. A woman named May boarded the last bus of the night after visiting her grandmother. The bus was nearly empty, with only the driver and an old man seated at the front. At the next stop, 3 people boarded, a man and 2 women, their heads bowed as if avoiding eye contact. May noticed something odd. Their feet didn't touch the floor, and they moved with a strange, floating gait. The old man suddenly stood up and accused May of stealing his wallet. Startled, she denied it, but the commotion forced the driver to stop. As they got off to resolve the argument, the old man whispered, "I saved your life." Moments later, the bus drove away, disappearing into the fog. The next day, news broke that the bus had been found abandoned miles from the city. The passengers, driver, and even the vehicle's engine were never found. Number 6. Lona Mexico. La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is one of Mexico's most famous legends. The ghost of a grieving mother, she is said to wander near rivers and lakes, searching for the children she lost, and dragging others into her watery grave. A young couple, Elena and Marcos, were camping by a quiet river on a warm summer night. After their children fell asleep, the couple sat by the fire, enjoying the peaceful sounds of nature. But as the night deepened, Elena heard something unusual, faint, sorrowful sobbing carried by the wind. At first, Marcos laughed it off. "It's just the wind," he said, but the cries grew louder, more anguished. Then they heard the words, "Mis Hios, Mis Hios." Elena froze. Standing by the riverbank was a pale woman in a tattered white dress. Her hair was long and wild, covering her face, and her arms reached out toward the water. Marcos called out, but the woman turned suddenly, her face hollow-eyed and gaunt. Her screams pierced the night, and as she stepped closer, the couple grabbed their children and ran to the car. They drove away, the ghostly figure watching them from the edge of the river. Days later, Elena swore she heard faint cries outside their window, a chilling reminder that La Llorona never stops searching. Number 5. The Wendigo, North America. The Wendigo is a terrifying creature from Native American folklore, said to haunt the cold forests of North America. It is born out of greed and starvation, appearing when someone resorts to cannibalism during harsh winters. A group of friends decided to go on a winter camping trip deep in the Canadian wilderness. As a blizzard rolled in, they found themselves stranded, their supplies dwindling. Days passed, and hunger began to take its toll. One night, they heard scratching outside their tent. Thinking it was an animal, they cautiously peeked outside, but nothing was there. The next morning, one of their group, Sam, had vanished, leaving only deep claw marks in the snow. Later that night, as the wind howled outside, the remaining friends heard heavy breathing near their campsite. A shadowy figure emerged from the treeline, its eyes glowing and its body thin, almost skeletal. The friends fled, but the creature followed, whispering their names in a voice that sounded like Sam's. Only one survivor made it back, frostbitten and delirious. When asked what happened, he could only repeat one word: Wendigo. Number 4. The Manananggal, Philippines. In Filipino folklore, the Manananggal is a terrifying vampiric creature that detaches its upper body from its lower half and uses bat-like wings to fly through the night, hunting for its prey. A farmer named Pedro noticed strange noises coming from his barn at night. His livestock were restless, and every morning, he found animals dead, drained of their blood. Determined to catch the culprit, he stayed awake one night, hiding in the shadows with a machete. As the moon rose, a figure appeared, a woman with long black hair and glowing red eyes. To Pedro's horror, she let out a guttural growl, and her upper body separated from her waist. Massive wings unfolded from her back, and she flew toward the barn. Pedro swung his machete, but the creature dodged, screeching as she flew into the night. The next morning, he searched for her lower half and sprinkled salt around the area, as the legend advises. Without her lower body, the Manananggal cannot reattach and dies. Though he never saw her again, the villagers whispered that Pedro had been marked. To this day, he hears flapping wings whenever he walks alone at night. These stories keep getting scarier, don't they? Which one has stuck with you the most so far? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're brave enough to keep going, hit that subscribe button, because the top 3 will leave you absolutely terrified. Number 3. El Silban, Venezuela. El Silban, or the Whistler, is a ghostly figure from Venezuelan folklore. He is said to carry a sack of bones, and his whistle, high-pitched and eerie, is a warning. The closer the sound, the farther away he actually is. A traveler named Diego was returning home late at night through a dense forest. As he walked, he heard a faint whistling sound, like a haunting melody. It seemed far away, so he ignored it. But as he walked, the whistle grew louder, echoing through the trees. Diego quickened his pace, but the sound didn't fade. Instead, he felt a sudden chill, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Turning, he saw a gaunt, shadowy figure standing in the darkness, dragging a sack behind him. The figure raised a bony hand and pointed at Diego. Terrified, Diego ran as fast as he could. When he reached the safety of his home, the whistling finally stopped. But weeks later, as Diego sat alone in his room, he heard it again, the same haunting whistle, this time just outside his window. Number 2. The Bell Witch, USA. The Bell Witch haunting is one of America's most famous legends. In the early 1800s, the Bell family of Tennessee was tormented by a malevolent spirit that caused chaos and destruction in their home. It began with strange noises, knocking on walls, scratching under the floorboards, and faint whispers in the night. The Bell children would wake up with bruises, claiming something had pulled their hair or scratched them in their sleep. As the activity escalated, the spirit began speaking, calling itself Kate. It tormented the family relentlessly, throwing objects, spilling food, and even threatening to kill the father, John Bell. One night, John woke to find a dark shadow hovering over him, pressing on his chest. Days later, he fell mysteriously ill and died, with no clear cause. At his funeral, witnesses claimed to hear mocking laughter echoing through the trees. The Bell Witch disappeared after John's death, but some say her spirit lingers, waiting for her next victim. Number 1. The Dybbuk Box Global. The Dybbuk Box is a wine cabinet said to contain a malevolent spirit from Jewish folklore. Owners report terrifying nightmares, unexplained illnesses, and paranormal activity whenever the box is opened. A man named Kevin bought the box at an estate sale, intrigued by its strange carvings and eerie aura. Almost immediately, he began experiencing disturbing events. His home filled with the smell of rotting flesh, his electronics malfunctioned, and he woke up with scratches on his body. One night, Kevin heard faint scratching sounds coming from inside the box. Against his better judgment, he opened it, revealing strange trinkets and a dark, unsettling energy. From that moment on, his health deteriorated, and his family reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their home. Desperate to rid himself of the curse, Kevin sold the box online. But legend says the Dybbuk Box still exists, passed from one unlucky owner to the next, spreading its dark influence. And that's the top 10 scariest urban legends from around the world. Which legend scared you the most? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more terrifying stories every week. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes legends aren't just stories,